Hello folks! Today is day 25 of October. Yay! If you're new here, and I know a few of you have joined my little corner of the internet since Inktober started, then welcome. I probably should have showed my face at the beginning of this video, but I'm running a bit short on time, so yes, some sacrifices are having to be made, but yes, I'm doing a whole series of these, a video every day for the challenge that is called Inktober. And Inktober is a worldwide online drawing challenge that happens every October, and the challenge is to work in inks. So here I'm working in Copic markers, at least what you're seeing on the screen now. I've been working with Copic's fine liners, although less so than in previous years. I've also been using this dip pen, which you can see on the right of the screen, and I use that a bit later. And what else? Liquid ink. So liquid ink with the dip pen, and also with brushes. So depending on how fine the detail needs to be and all of that. And yeah, some of those inks are metallic, which is always very exciting. They've all got gold or copper or silver in them. And yeah, today's drawing is Hestia, who is not the most exciting of goddesses. She is the goddess of the hearth and the home, so the fire of the home, and yeah, because she represents something that's very kind of domestic and generally considered to be quite feminine. She doesn't get into a lot of arguments with other gods and goddesses, and I think just by her nature and what she represents, she doesn't seem to show up so much in mythology, unless I've managed to miss her somehow. But yeah, I can't think of really any examples of her doing much, but that's okay, because I love what she represents. To me, she's very warm and cozy and maybe autumnal. I don't know. That's just what I think of when I think of the hearth and the home, and I think of reading by the fire, and just all being quite cozy. So this one here, I wanted to experiment with doing some darker skin tones, which I have tried previously and haven't gone so well. Oh, and a huge bit cut out there, I'm sorry. But yeah, here I am going in with the gold ink and adding some more details. But yes, I've been a bit tentative to go darker with the skin tone, mostly because it's the more dark you put on, the harder it is to remove, and yeah, it's just kind of a fear thing, I think, that I'm going to make part of it too dark and then it's really hard to lighten. And the other thing I struggled with this one was the contrast. And actually, as I'm looking at this drawing here, I actually think it's looking quite good. Maybe that's because I'm recording this a few days in the future. But yeah, then I came back and I thought, actually, I don't like this too much. And I went in and I added white highlights because I thought that might give it more contrast. And actually, I think that made it worse. And then I went back in and did gold over the top again after I'd recorded all of this. And then I went back in again after and changed up the hair and made it black instead of red. Which I think improved it from where it is at the end of this. But yeah, I just wasn't... I was getting frustrated with this and I wanted to give it another go. So I tried it again. This time I kept the face blank, like I'd done with Helen and Hera and a few of the others, where I just left the skin white rather than adding any tone. which doesn't really help with me wanting to include more diversity in these, but I do have more planned with more variety of skin tones. So I'd love to know which version of this you prefer. I think as a design, the second one is more successful, possibly because I planned it out a bit more ahead of time, and I had a clear idea of what I wanted from it, because I'd had that sort of trial run, I guess, where it didn't go so well. Although now looking back, I actually really like the first version before I went back and messed it up. So that's a little frustrating because, yeah, when I looked at it the next day, it didn't work. I think part of that was the angle I was filming at really highlighted those golds, so the contrast wasn't an issue. You could really see all the details very well. Whereas when I looked at it in the morning with the light, it didn't work. So I don't know. I've still got the other ones, so we'll have to see if that works. But and how well it scans as well. That's another question. But I do think this one works better. I just went for sort of flat colours with this, which maybe I should have done with the other one. But I'm learning as I go, and I think you'll see from tomorrow's one and the day after that I've sort of learned from those mistakes, and hopefully they are better. Yeah, but already I think, the other thing I changed here, of course, was that her eyes are open, and they were closed in the previous one. And I think that would have really helped with the contrast issue in the first one as well. So that's the thing. I mean, I told you that at the beginning of the whole Inktober experience that you would be seeing my triumphs and my failures throughout this. And there certainly have been really great pieces that I'm super happy with. But, this is an example of where things just didn't go quite right. I wouldn't be surprised now if everyone says, "Oh, I like the first one best." But yeah, it's frustrating when you have one that just doesn't quite work. Yeah, in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have gone back and redone it, but hey ho, it's done now, and I'm happy with the second result. So the previous 2 days before this, so days 23 and 24, I was really pleased with. So it was a bit disappointing to then do one that I wasn't that happy with. So now I am happy with it. And then day 26 wasn't so good, but this is the way it goes. I was really pleased with how this hair turned out, actually. Again, this was a bit of an experiment, doing it quite differently from the previous one, and doing kind of pin curl styled curls, which I really like. I'm a big fan of the 1940s sort of fashions and hairstyles and makeup and all of that, so that's something I definitely try to bring to my work. And even though, I mean, this is Greek mythology, they didn't have hair like this, or at least so far as we know. It's very much a mixing of decades and eras and all of that, but I really like that, and I think that's what makes my work mine, and that's something I would encourage anyone who is doing art and wants to sort of create a style for themselves. I think you need to experiment with things that you love, basically, and try mixing them together and just remixing things until you come up with something that works. So I've been quite kind of analytical about how I've developed my style, in that I've looked at the kind of work that I really love and the kind of work that really makes me feel something, because that's what I want to get from anyone who looks at my stuff. I want them to feel something. So I've looked at my favourite artists and sort of analysed what they do in terms of colour and tone and line in particular, because that's something I use a lot of. And and have created not quite a blueprint, but an idea of what I want my style to look like. And that's something I'm always aiming towards in every piece. And I think this matches more closely to that style than the previous one. So maybe that's the best way of putting it. But yes, it's always something I'm striving for. And that's been really helpful, taking quite an analytical approach to the whole thing. So I'm going to wrap this up here, at least the voiceover. The piece is nearly finished. Just going in now with some white, add a little bit more oomph. Oh, I should also mention that the moths are because she represents the hearth and the flames, so moths kind of seemed appropriate for her, and also they're, she's quite a quiet goddess, at least that's how I think of her, so it kind of made sense to me to have these creatures around her that are not as sort of loud and garish as butterflies are. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will be putting another one of these up tomorrow and another one up the next day, and all the days until the end of the month. So yeah, if you enjoyed this as well, please give it a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm to recommend it to other people who like similar things. So that would be really cool if you could do that. Alrighty, thank you so much, folks, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.